Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dagmar Schuller. I'm the CEO and co-founder of an AI tech startup and also professor for applied AI. And it's my absolute great pleasure to introduce you to a really awesome panel that you're going to experience now with regards to deep tech. Our question is shaping the future of SMEs. What can we do? And I have the pleasure to introduce you to my panelists now. I will start with Professor Helmut Schönenberger. Helmut's passion is deeply rooted in startups and technology transfer as the co-founder and CEO of UnternehmerTUM at the Technical University of Munich. And this is the Center for Innovation and Business Creation and has been one of their, and still is, and always driving forward, most successful venture labs that we basically have in Germany. Welcome, Helmut.
Danke. Thank you.
Then I would like to welcome Professor Hadas Erel. Hadas is assistant professor of and head of the social robots group at the Reichman University's MyLab in Herzliya. And she deeply researches something that is really intriguing, human-machine interaction, especially also exploring the people's social cognitive tendencies when they are interacting with deep tech. So Hadas, very, very welcome. Thank you. Then right next to Helmut, I may introduce and say hello to Dr. Gunther Wobser. And Gunther is actually representing German Mittelstand as nobody else, because he has a family-owned business with more than 600 people, and he is also in deep tech. He really loves working with startups and innovation. And he's going to tell us predominantly also about the German Mittelstand and the challenges, but also the opportunities that we can tackle with deep tech innovation. Welcome, Gunther. And then I'll also welcome very happily Professor Constantin Häfner. Constantin is executive board member, especially for research and transfer at the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft. Additionally, he is chair of the laser technology group at RWTH Aachen, and he has 15 years experience in Silicon Valley and is really deeply knowledgeable about tech transfer. Welcome, Constantin. So, dear Helmut, the first question to you. TUM is deeply about entrepreneurial spirit and also about technology transfer. We always have the big challenge, we say our fundamental research is really great, but we do not know how do we actually transfer this and get the PS, so to speak, on the road. So what are your experiences and how do you become so successful as you are?
Thanks, Dagmar. So I think it's a question on what you focus. And at TUM, we have now the tradition to really focus not only on research and education, but also on the third mission, entrepreneurship. And it's a real focus. So it's just to give you the numbers. So we have about 500 people only helping our students and researchers to really bring out the innovation, build scalable companies. And it really became a machine. So we do about 25% of all tech companies in Germany. So every week another 2 companies are added. About 40 million of venture capital is pouring into the ecosystem per week. And yeah, it's a huge machine. We found more tech companies like your home country, Austria, for example. So only our institution. And the reason is focus, 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 and really also commit on it. And it's not only like the university guys, but also guys like Gunther. We have many families behind us. So it's Dieter Schwarz, for example, from the Schwarz Group, or Susanne Klatten, the Strüngmann family, also many mid-sized companies, not only the huge companies. And it's a huge innovation ecosystem. We really build the new supply chains, add new companies, but also integrate great existing companies. And this makes it a huge and really strong innovation ecosystem. And just also a word to Heilbronn. So we are also Heilbronn, okay? So TUM is in Heilbronn. It's not only Munich, it's a huge ecosystem not only southern Germany, but also with many friends in other countries. You will later talk about Silicon Valley, for example, and this is how we play this international game.
Thank you very much. But adding already, you mentioned associations, collaborations, really doing at hand this type of transfer. Gunther, you are from the Heilbronn-Franconia region and you represent the German Mittelstand. You have had a couple of experiences where you even won a very prestigious award recently. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how you captured deep tech, especially AI, in your company.
Thank you. I do represent the German Mittelstand today, right? Not in total. I would like to talk a bit about the experience I have in my company. I think the sense of urgency is there. Everybody has to do something. It's all a matter how to apply AI to SME and how I like to say German Mittelstand companies. And Helmut gave a great example. I think it's really a lot about partnership. The complexity of the world is infinite. And so what's the answer? Interestingly, you said focus. I have a bit of a different approach. I'm a big supporter of the ambidexterity, using both hands to tackle the issues. So first hand, which is usually your strong hand, you're taking care about the core business. With the other hand, you're exploring new opportunities. Maybe the focus is ambidexterity to sort this out. But I do believe you have to do things both. You have to do two things at the same time. And this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking a lot of care about my core business, which has been stagnating the last years. German industry is struggling. But on the same time, I'm exploring new opportunities, applying AI, going for partnerships, such as UnternehmerTUM, and looking for collaborations also to academia and some peers in my industry.
Lovely, thank you very much. So you were saying core technology and opportunity, both hands, so to speak. Opportunity always drives also changes within a company, and the big portion is acceptance. So Hadas, you are very deeply in this acceptance portion, especially when it comes to deep tech translation. Your work is predominantly within robots. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you actually could advise acceptance to be bigger in the translation?
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to think about is humans. Usually when we are thinking about technology, we're super excited about the technology and we're looking at it as if it's like this cool thing, magical thing. Let's just bring it on and everything will be better and AI can do such great things and shorten processes. And the people in the loop are just the creatures who need to adapt it. But we do not adapt things so quickly, especially if we have previous experience or a lot of habits. And if we want people to accept the technology, we really need to understand the processes that are required to help them in order to do that. So first, we need to understand that people have strong habits, and we do not lose our habits easily. We really need to make sure that we encourage them, that we give them a way to do that, some perspective on why it's important, but also help them get into the process. And maybe most importantly, we need to think very carefully about the technology that we bring in. And sometimes it's the responsibility of the technology designers to create technology that people will want to use. So you said robots, I'm always happy to talk about robots. We're building these super cool robots, super complex. Engineers are investing so much money, but then we end up with robots that nobody wants to use. So we need to understand humans, understand their habits, understand their expectations. Then we need to look at the technology, and then we need to build a bridge that will help people move towards the technology, and so that the technology will be appropriate for these humans, and then people will easily adapt technology.
Thank you, Hadas. So we heard about what is necessary to adapt technology. Constantin, you basically, at the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, have a very strong passion for translation. You have spent personally 15 years in Silicon Valley at the forefront of innovation and translation. Could you tell us a little bit more about your experiences with regards to the transfer and where the challenges but also the opportunities lie?
Sure, yeah. So transfer, you have to make transfer a mission, right? And so, what we do what what we do in Fraunhofer is we take the invention to the innovation. Inventions is typically around TRL3 or so, technical readiness level 3. And then we actually walk it through the death, valley of death, to TRL6 or so forth, and then we transfer it into industry. And we do this every day, and you have to think about that the SMEs, you know, the Mittelstand in Germany, they're really the powerhouse of the German industry. And they actually represent really, you know, the prosperity that we've earned in Germany. And so they're worldwide exporting goods and processes and materials and products. And so we support them. And so, you know, if you think about the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, we have an annual budget of about 4.2 billion US dollars. 2/3 of that is earned at the market, so it's competitively earned. So we get about half from industry and then half from pre-competitive funding from government. And so we actually and we operate about 75 institutes. They're organized sort of like by competence, and they're, you know, regional placed. So we are close to the customer, and so we talk every day to the customer. We understand their needs, we understand what the market needs, and then we help them actually translate that into solutions. And so that is actually an organization, I think, you know, globally, a lot of other countries envy Germany for the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft.
Lovely, thank you very much. Coming back to you, Helmut, you have the fundamental research, but you also are listening very much in the Venture Lab when we're talking especially, for example, about Heilbronn, to what the region is asking you to provide. What is the insight that especially is given to you? What is needed? Where are the fears? But where are also the opportunities that they want to have in collaborating with you?
So I think, first of all, it's all about people. And what's so special, I think, about the Heilbronn ecosystem, that you have great entrepreneurs. And I think the most important one in this case is Dieter Schwarz. So he's really one of the most successful business persons in Europe. And he's not only a super successful entrepreneur, but also a person who loves to really bring forward the country. And I think that's like that's a huge gift for our ecosystem, for whole of Germany and Europe, to have such people like Dieter Schwarz, who is a role model and then gives back a lot of passion and money to the ecosystem. And I think you all have to come to Heilbronn and see what was built up there in this town. It was not a university town. Now you have this huge campus with all these institutions, and we as TUM are very, very happy also to be one of the largest academic partners. So we have an own school there, teaching innovation, teaching business, teaching computer sciences, and this attracts thousands of students coming into the regions, and then hopefully teaming up with guys like Gunther, not only the Schwarz group, but many of the SMEs in the region, then start to innovate within your companies, but also with the startups which are generated out of the Bildungscampus. And last point, one of the big focus fields, or the biggest one, is artificial intelligence in Heilbronn. And so the strategy is to build up really a cluster around AI. So there's the EPI, and so that's like the epicenter for all these activities. And this is where the SMEs come in and innovate, where the researchers come in, and many of the startups, and then it really becomes a lively ecosystem. And so my picture is that maybe in 50 years Heilbronn is the same as what happened in Oxford and in Cambridge, and you will see it works out, because every year great people come into the ecosystem, and they are educated, but they also start to innovate, and then they build up new companies, and then you have this innovation engine coming, and that's our chance. And I think that's also really a role model for Germany, because And in Germany, at many places, people think, okay, we all invented everything, now China is better and so on. But there are so many great people here, and it's really up to us to bundle our strengths. And this is what I meant, Gunther, with focus. So focus means not that we have one tool how to innovate, but we focus on innovation, okay, with hundreds of tools.
Yeah.
So this
I
really
can
sounds
actually add.
fantastic.
I can
Yes.
add to that. You know, I think you've perfectly described, you know, what this is about. And you asked before, like, what the spirit of Silicon Valley is, right? So Silicon Valley is something where, you know, we have a huge idea pipeline. There's a bunch of really one of the leading universities there. Second, we have a lot of good people there, right? Third, we have a mindset that is risk tolerant, right? And so it's the can-do mentality, and we're lacking that sometimes here. And then that creates all of that together. It creates opportunity, and creating opportunity is important in order to actually have disruptive technology, scale technology, and so forth. And what we need for that, we pair it with venture capital. And so this is something that we were lacking in Germany for a while, the ability to scale. And so this comes together in Heilbronn, where Fraunhofer also operates 8 centers there. And I think it's building a great ecosystem. We have already a bunch of other ecosystems in Germany too. Munich is one of them, or Darmstadt, or Berlin, or so forth, right? And I think we need more of that, because the innovation cycles, they have actually dramatically shortened. And so we have to go the short pathways. We have to link this together. We have to get rid of some of the bureaucracy. We need to actually allow innovation and not hinder innovation. And so that's another reason why we need an innovation law, basically, that allows us more actively bringing innovation into the market.
Well, now we have a lot of solutions already presented. Thank you very much, Constantin. This really sounds fantastic. Gunther, you are actually in the practice, you are in the field. If you, I mean, Christmas is around. If you could wish for something, what from decreasing bureaucracy or different type of funding options or opportunities would be there where you say, oh, adaptation in the German Mittelstand would be much easier if,
Yeah, I mean, everything which has been said resonates with me. I'm also a big admirer of the Israeli ecosystem, where there's a good setup of state and private funding. We all made our exercise about Silicon Valley and tried to adopt this to Germany. There's a lot of private money in Heilbronn, obviously, but still it's a lighthouse, how this ecosystem can be set up and kind of copied in other regions. There even has been the lighthouse competition in Germany, where you have been the role model, right, for other innovation centers. And this is also something which is not so much common in Germany, where everybody wants to be equal. You know, we have a lot of kind of avoiding differences, but still we need these benchmarks, we need these lighthouses to be successful and just to prove how we should do it. And also fully agree with the strong habits theory. And there was an interesting dialogue outside about family businesses, and everybody loves family businesses, right? Because it's a long-term perspective, it's the next generation, but there's also some issues with family business, because sometimes the generation kind of block each other, right? And the adoption rate of innovation can be a bit limited in family business, so we have to overcome this. And there's a lot of, in Heilbronn, ecosystem, but I see some resistance in SMEs to be part of it, some hindrance. Can I talk to that professor, right? What they want from me, what can I provide? And Christmas is coming up, right? So Santa Claus is around. So I have an idea to overcome this hen and egg issue about data. And I have the idea also that in Germany, maybe we can introduce a data cooperative. And I thought a lot about cooperatives because Heilbronn and Franconia, where I come from, is also a beautiful wine region. And there's winemakers with some grapes, but they're too small to market their wine to others. So what they do, they give it to somebody, which is called a cooperative. And then they do the wine and they sell it, right? So they give something in, get something out, and that's the nature of a cooperative. And I would love that every SME gives in some data and gets some algorithms back. Because just on their own, they're not able to create these algorithms, right? They're helpless. There's a human being comes into place. So if Santa Claus is listening, government-funded data cooperative would be something which is definitely on my wish list.
Oh, that's lovely. We know all cash is king, and your notion about VCs, Constantin, basically is also, I think, a very important factor. But before we drive back to that, Hadas, you are experiencing this really agile translation on a day-to-day basis, and we just previously talked about that the spirit is a little bit different. Could you elaborate a little bit more about what is necessary to get from the risk-averse to the rather not maybe risk-embracing, but more balanced adaptation?
Yeah, so maybe I can use my friend's suggestions here and add something. So first, quick iterations. I think this is super important. So short cycles, and which allows for a culture of fast failure. So we want to add failure into the equation. It's going to be okay to fail. And if we're going to have quick iterations and we're not going to just invest a lot of effort into going through one whole full process, then maybe it's okay to fail. And if you fail early, then you can learn from that and then you can improve. And this will help you succeed at the end of the road. But we need to be tolerant towards failures, and we need to expect failures. We want to have failures in the process. And then maybe going back to what Gunther is saying, I think in Israel, we'll have many problems maybe with the government, but it is very supportive of collaborations between industry and academia. And I think bringing everybody together into one room and trying to figure out how to create cool processes together that will push forward a lot of innovation is really making a difference. So you have a company which is really having a very strict way of doing things. Then you have academia with many, many researchers, and sometimes more tolerant for failures and more tolerant for quick iterations. And then this combination, which is supported by government, sometimes works very well and adds up to the process. So I think I would focus on quick iterations, fast failing, and also just encouraging innovation.
And others. So when I'm in Israel, what I really love is the entrepreneurial spirit of your people. And it really starts not only with these academic guys, but if you land at the airport and take a taxi, then already the taxi driver is talking about the new companies in Tel Aviv. And this is entrepreneurial spirit, okay? And vice versa here in Germany. So if we talk about, okay, let's get more innovative, first thing is we say, okay, let's change a law, or let's ask our government to spend more money. But this is not innovation. But innovation, it's people like you who really go the way, and and we need more Gunthers, and that's basically what we need. We need the people who go the extra mile, and it's a lot of work, are super passionate and dedicate their life for innovation, and then we make it.
I'm happy to be an ambassador. Maybe I would like to see the female version of myself for the future. No, but I mean, I know many entrepreneurs who are passionate, who want to do something, but they're a bit helpless, right? So, I can cope with it. I have failures myself, you know.
Exactly.
But still, under the balance, it's okay. But for somehow, we as institutions, and it's not just universities, it's also like UnternehmerTUM or Fraunhofer. I'm really looking for like a concept. You made this wish list with Santa Claus to make it a bit more entertaining, but I'm really serious. It goes beyond buildings, it goes beyond people. I'm really looking for concepts. I really believe ambidexterity is like the key to life. Honestly, I think you have to do both. It's not as comfortable as it used to be, where we just did once. We manufactured machinery and sent it to the world, right? We manufactured car and everybody wanted to drive one. This is the past. We have to look for the future. Right, and so ambidexterity also in the way of failure. I mean, I'm really struggling a bit with that word because I know it's necessary to innovate, but nobody wants to fail. So again, it's ambidexterity. It's failure, but in a very defined concept,
Yeah.
right? This is ambidextrous. It's contradictory. It's a paradox. So I believe we have to work in paradoxes, and all together, as an ecosystem, we have to find new ways to innovate, which goes a bit beyond the individual human being. Having open innovation, orchestrating innovation together.
But maybe we should not be so afraid of the word failure. It's okay to fail. This is maybe more of a cultural, like business cultural aspect. You need to let people know that it's okay to fail. And as long as they learn from this failure, then it's absolutely fine. And it's okay to have this word, let's fail. I think this is something that we all think about very deeply, at least when we're talking about innovation. Fail, try to fail fast, and then learn from it, and then you'll succeed.
And just to give you an example from TUM, so with failures, so we have one program, it's called TUM Entrepreneurial Masterclass, and so the university boards helps 100 master students per year to write their master thesis about their startup. 100 people, and about 30 start a new company. So it's like twice as many companies as Fraunhofer or Max Planck is founding per year. Okay, only just to give you the dimension, only to give 100 master students the chance. Okay, and you could also say 70 failed, but they had a great learning experience, and they are now better educated. And I think it's also how we perceive failure. Okay, so in my ecosystem, everybody's a winner.
I absolutely agree.
Failure is a great topic because what Constantin mentioned before, it's a lot about money and venture capitalism, and venture capitalists don't like failure that much, especially not if they are in Europe, because the risk averseness is still quite imminent in our financing space. So Constantin, you mentioned it before. What would be your suggestions to change that, especially when we look at the necessity of positive failure?
So I think fast failure is very important, and every one of us who conduct research, does that every day, trial and error, right? And we want to do informed trial, right? So that's very important. So when we fail, we understand why we failed. So then the second thing is, I said we need an innovation freedom law, right? And why is that? Well, we need, first of all, I think you mentioned though, we need sandboxes where we can act without too many rules, where we have not as many governing laws, where we can fail fast. Laws are on the other side important because they provide a structure and they provide the assurance that an investment, and a VC investment, will actually provide a return of investment because the framework doesn't change and the rule set doesn't change. So that is something that is important, and we see, how the rule sets are eroding right now in the U.S., for example, and that provides, a lot of risk about the future. And so this is something. It's important to have a set of rules that that stand and they're reliable. But on the other side, when we invest when in Germany, when, for example, the Zuwendungsgeber invest, they need to be fault tolerant. They need to understand that, yes, we will fail, and we will have not at the beginning, already when we write the Antrag, the answer that will come out after 3 years. And so this is very, very important that we actually allow fast failure. We have to allow that we actually change path, when we go through this, and then when we stop things when they don't deliver promising results. And then the other thing is, I talked about the sandbox. One of the things is by German laws is research is actually something that is societal beneficial, gemeinnützig, right? Transfer is not. So that means, for example, we have different tax structures. We cannot basically choose or give special conditions to startups that spin out of Fraunhofer, for example. We also have limitations in giving them access to our infrastructure. So that needs, or do small-scale production on infrastructure that we have. Those are the things that we really have to open up in order to actually move faster. And I said this before, we need the short pathways to our SMEs and to any corporations and startups that are out there.
The short pathway. The short pathway is also a good point. Short pathways sometimes come around synergies. So Helmut, synergetic effects and really getting them out from one project to the other, this is also something I think that at TUM, within the collaborations, is very lively. Would you tell us a little bit more about that?
So how we play the game is to really build a perfect sandbox, a paradise for innovators. And so on one side, TUM is a state university like every other state universities with all the limitations, but also with all the great infrastructure we have and all the resources. So we have 10,000 employees, we have 50,000 students, we have 1 billion of budget, which is serious money. So everybody of you gives us a lot of money so we can do research and education. But then we also have in our playbox the innovation tools, okay? And how we play it is that we bring in industry. So we have all these industry partners who are also paying for it. So all the budget is not coming from government, but from industry. And so there are no strings attached. So, for example, Susanne Klatten and Dieter Schwarz, they only want us to be entrepreneurial successful, okay? This is the only obligation we have is to really pump out the great teams, okay? And then everything is fine. And so what we do is then combine like the public part of the playground with the private part of it. And so it's called TUM Venture Labs, where on one side our schools are deeply engaged with all the research guys, and then the business people from UnternehmerTUM from the private side. And this is how we play this game. And if you look at the rankings, so Munich is now under the top 10 innovation hubs of the world. It's even in the official rankings even before Tel Aviv, okay? And I really envy what you are doing, but I will want also mention, I'm also living in Germany. Munich is also Germany, okay? You can do this.
Bavaria, to be specific.
Yeah. But still,
Bavaria is part of Germany.
It is, but we stick also to the rules, and you can do this in our country.
Yeah.
And my main point is the main restrictions are not in our laws, but in our heads.
I like that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Helmut, for this inspiring comment. Coming back to the main restrictions, just one short question also to Gunther again. If we're looking at the Bitkom studies, we're looking at the Chamber of Commerce studies, there is still a lot of resistance into adapting deep tech, especially in the SMEs and in the German Mittelstand. What is your most pressuring point?
Wow, I mean, I'm a good adapter, so I have maybe some ideas. What is interesting, though, the adoption rate. I mean, Gen AI is quite okay, but the adoption rate of AI in general is relatively low. And there has been an interesting study about TU Munich, about my home region. Even so, companies are struggling. They try to do it on their own. It's kind of interesting, right? So my first attempt would be to collaborate, to exchange with peers, to look for institutions that can support you, Applied AI, EPI, Fraunhofer, everybody who is around. That's very important. And I'm also personally a big fan of open innovation, right? To partner up with others to struggle all the issues we have. And Gen AI, I mean, there are some commercial applications available. We won this award because we were the first customer for a Munich startup, Select Code, to introduce, I would say, a curated suite of AI applications, which makes it easy for everybody to adopt. That would be something which I can recommend to any SME to look for a commercial product available, curating, getting all security done. Number one question of Germany is immer, what about safety? What about data security? Right? We have to overcome this hurdle. I even had the idea, can I share with the panel just to eliminate the word failure. Honestly, failure doesn't resonate with SME and Mittelstand. Maybe we should just label it as a learning experience.
Okay.
I mean, it's like the same thing, right?
Absolutely.
But it sounds much more attractive to me because it's a learning experience, right? Try and error, but in the long run, right, you will be more successful. So that's another. Sometimes the language changes things, right? So this could be another recommendation. And to conclude, I know Helmut likes to hear that. I would recommend everybody to cooperate with startups, right? And there's so many, even not just in Munich, everywhere, right? We're in Berlin. That's also a hub. You're kind of struggling with
Hamburg.
Hamburg, yeah. Even in my home area, there's 1 or 2 startups. It's a very rural area, but if you watch out, you find them and you team up with them, and together you're strong, right? Sometimes you get 30 years of university research just by cooperating with a startup, right? And this is fantastic because I cannot afford that research. I fund it. But I'm very interested to get it via the vehicle of a startup. So this would be my third hint, how to apply AI to SMEs.
Absolutely great input. Thank you very much, Gunther. And what I can also say, and one of my learnings at my company was, in Germany, you usually start always sometimes explaining what you do. You don't tackle why you do it. But the why, I think, Hadas, and this is directly to you, is something that triggers especially the limbic system. Maybe when we're talking about, and Gunther made a really great example with learning experience, how can we tackle the why a little bit better, why people or why the invention should be applied, and ideally make something people want and what they are not, and what they are willing to pay for. So how do we do the why?
Maybe first, I'll say that I totally agree with the learning experience and go back maybe to the earlier question about why people do not adopt a new technology. And I think one of the main reasons is anxiety. People are just afraid. So if you frame it as a learning experience and learning is allowed and people can have a learning process and they're not supposed to just magically adapt the technology, that could be a very perfect framing for integrating technology into new businesses. So that's the first thing. And if we're looking at that from the other direction and trying to look at the products of innovation, I love the sandbox and innovation and supporting everything, but I think one piece is missing, and that's the users, the people who are supposed to use the technology. So let's say I have a new idea for innovation, super cool idea. Immediately I fall in love with this idea, and then I start running towards making it happen with some accelerators or any support that I get funding from industry, funding from the university. But maybe this is something that I find very cool, but the users are not going to really like it. So I think you should bring in the users as early as possible, even if you have like very low fidelity prototypes, or even just to test the idea. And even earlier, sometimes you think that there's a problem, but really there is no problem. And then you are building a whole new product that is not really necessary. So I would just go 100 steps back. First, you have a good idea. Probably it is a good idea. Go and talk to the relevant people. See if they also think that it's a good idea. Then start moving with the quick iterations. And don't fall in love. It's very difficult because it's your own idea. But let the people in, show them what you think, and then listen to them openly. Do not feel bad when they disagree with you about the greatness of your idea. Listen to them, and then maybe you can adjust it, and eventually you'll come up with the product that everybody wants.
Super valuable input. Thank you, Hadas. Last question before we go into the audience. Constantin, the why, Hadas explained it so nicely. Fraunhofer is very strong on innovation and engineering. So how do you tackle the why?
That's exactly how she said. We are customer-oriented. Our customers are businesses, small, medium-sized enterprises, large enterprises, and startups. We work with all of them, and so we have to understand what the problem is. So there's a lot of like consulting, talking, understanding, access to infrastructures that are too large, for example, for a small business to operate and so forth. We talk about AI. Some of the models are, cannot be afforded or keep the data actually in a secure space or in a sandbox and so forth. And that's where we come into play. We provide, these infrastructures. We provide the knowledge how to use it, and then, find and identify the solution that is targeted to the problem, right? Because, as you said before, failure is a non-acceptable word in that sense. So I like it, to actually fail fast or learn quickly. And I think that's very, very important. And we do this with the customer together.
Lovely. So thank you very much. The audience, now it's your turn. Do you have any questions for the panel? Yes, please stand up. Do you receive maybe a short introduction?
Jörg Häfer, founder of a small startup, just 3 months old, shifting gears a little. Okay, so fast forward. Let's assume for a second that all what we heard about the 3 last days, from fundamental research over research into kind of, let's say, piloting stuff, scaling up. Most of the SMEs in Germany are located in mid-sized cities, which are really places where you can afford still to do the business. But they don't have universities, they don't have the infrastructure. Which role do you see for mid-sized cities in Germany to connect kind of, let's say, what we do in science and what we want to do with small to medium enterprises coming out of the universities and then being again rooted in Germany?
So maybe I start. First of all, congratulations that you started your own company. This is super. And so I was raised in Regensburg, okay, and this is like 100 kilometers away from Munich. And so how the Bavarians think, okay, this is Regensburg, this is Landshut, this is Munich, this is Augsburg, and it's not one ecosystem. Okay? If you go to Silicon Valley is huge, okay? It's bigger than the whole of Bavaria from the size, okay? And so I would say, so for the Regensburg people, it's a 40-minute drive to go to UnternehmerTUM, vice versa. So it's the same ecosystem. And I think this is what we have to see, not only sit at our sofas and stay in our small villages, but we can travel. And so as Munich people, we also go for skiing each weekend, drive like 90 minutes. Let's do this also for business.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's also a responsibility of entrepreneurs. Manfred Wittenstein is here. He's also coming from my area. He's done a lot to foster innovation in the area. I have created my own company, Future Labs, which is a beneficial company, gemeinnützig, and also to find places in rural areas, in mid-sized cities, where people can also come together. We know it's both. It's like looking on the internet and reading research, but it's also meeting people. Like Steve Blank, get out of the building. It's also like not to forget the user, right? We're really here in a bubble here. Everybody likes each other, drinking coffee, but the real issues are out of here. So we really have to get out. And as entrepreneurs, we do have a responsibility to orchestrate also communities by incubating new ideas and setting up institutions within the areas.
Very, very nice. We have a question in the back here.
Yeah, that follows nicely on from that. Hi, good morning. Thanks for a great panel. Jörg Nievener, my name, Technical University of Munich. I like the kind of move fast and break things spirit. Of course, we've done that for 20 years, and what we've broken was democracy, rule of law, social coherence, right? So there's a downside to this. So what I was wondering about, we've heard a lot about users, customers, people, and ecosystems, but of course we're doing the whole thing for society, right? And TUM, as you know, is moving towards society-centered research and innovation. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about how we harness kind of the social and moral innovative potential of society in all its diversity, and how we harness kind of the diversity and bring in more diversity in these kinds of ecosystems, because cloning Gunther is fantastic, but of course, ideally, there would be a little bit more diversity in there, which we know is one of the great drivers of creativity, and you haven't really focused on that, so I wondered whether you could talk a little about it.
Great point.
Yes.
So I think this is exactly why we need laws. We need laws, we need norms, and we need standards that you can adhere to, and that's very, very important. Unfortunately, the way we often approach things in Europe is through the legal way, and it's not actually connected to the customer anymore. And that's where they broke the link, and that's where we have to get better. We have to really, think about like what the customer, what the companies need, what the startups need. There's a reason why the startup is probably not in Munich, and we heard it. It's maybe too expensive, right? Or your customers are there. Right? So I'll give you my card afterwards, and we can connect you to one of our Fraunhofer institutes, which is probably closer. So anyway, so I think this is a very important question. But what we need to do is we need to be more pragmatic, and we need to really learn from the customer. We need to work with society, and we have to work with our industry in order to inform the legal system and then not break it. And then that provides the reliability that also venture capital is seeking to get a return of investment in the future.
Maybe I can add something to that, and also relates to the previous question. I think academia, we have more freedom. Okay, and in many cases, we do see more diversity. And the field that I come from, human-computer interaction, it has grown into creating conferences that combine both industry and academia very closely. So you have people from academia that work a lot with industry, and also people from industry who do research. And these sometimes just having a conference once in a while in a specific area that is open for everybody can really make a change, because it opens new directions of thinking. It shows how diversity can really contribute to the way we think, because sometimes we are so narrow-minded, and it also opens a lot of opportunities to people who do not usually participate. So these combinations of industry, academia, and just having cool conferences like this, and maybe sometimes smaller, are a great opportunity.
And I think our biggest leverage are our students. And just to give you again the numbers, so TUM has 50,000 students, and every year 15,000 new come into our ecosystem. And now we bring them on the innovation path, we bring them on the entrepreneurship path, and they go out there, build the companies, and it's a huge force. So every year 15,000 people. This means in 10 years 150,000 people. Munich has 1.5 million people, so this is 10% of Munich. And this is what we experience now after 20 years of operations, that we really changed the whole city, because all our students also have sisters and brothers. They have aunts and uncles and moms and grandmoms, and it really is. This is really changing, I think, our ecosystem, and this is why we also at TUM so committed to great education, innovative education.
Thank you very much. The very last question before we wrap up.
Yeah, Andreas Pönsken, I'm partner of a small investment boutique in Switzerland. I'm asking a very hypothetical question, nothing to do with reality, and understanding that I'm from Switzerland, I don't understand anything about it. Just imagine yourself, you're heading a German state, and you discover in your state as Minister President that you do have a couple of universities with a bit of international reputation, a bit of international leading science, some leading on a European level, but there's virtually very little transfer happening. So the value generation doesn't happen. And then you look at TUM, and you think, I would love to have 10% or 20% of TUM in my state. What are the three things with which I should start as Minister President?
So emphasize on it and support people like Dorothea. Dorothea is from the Herzstift Foundation, and so the Herz Foundation is now building up a huge startup factory in Hamburg with impossible founders, and team up. So Mr. Tschentscher, that's the mayor of Hamburg. He's super supportive and team up with Dorothea and Easy and Daisy and all these great institutions in Hamburg and make it happen. So I think that's it. Really focus on it and team up with people like Dorothea.
Thank you very much. So we are at the end of our panel. I'd like to thank you all, Helmut, Gunther, Hadas, Constantin. I'd like to thank the audience very much. Our key takeaways are especially, there is no failure. We have from now on only learning experiences. And we also have a very, very great ecosystem, and it's not do it, but make it happen through collaborations, through working together, through exchanges, and constantly learning. Thank you very much.